Welcome to Off Ledger, the podcast for accountants that explores the personal side of the profession. Becoming an accountant, and more importantly thriving as one, is no easy task. Hearing how others have navigated their paths can offer both practical insight and reassurance for those facing the day-to-day realities of the role. In each episode, we share honest, real-life stories from firm leaders, uncovering the twists, turns and defining moments that have shaped their careers. You'll hear inspiring stories, candid reflections, and the occasional story of success pulled back from the brink. Subscribe to Off Ledger, and whenever you need a reminder that you are not alone, we'll be right here for you. So I would like to introduce you to Luke Hamblett. Luke is Associate Director at Lewis Smith in Dudley in the Black Country. And as you know, Off Ledger is all about exploring the backgrounds and the origin stories of the leaders in accounting firms in the UK. Luke isn't quite a leader yet, but he's on that track. He is just stepped up recently to a more senior role, so he's very much on that path. So I wanted to explore where he's at, how he's found that so far, and what his experience has been of moving towards that leadership role. So Luke, very good to meet you. Thank you for doing this. And I'd love to explore a little bit about, explain a little bit about about Lewis Smith and where you're at now.
Hi, Andy. Yeah, in terms of, as you said before, in terms of where I am now, I came into Lewis Smith 7 years ago as a senior accountant, and I've kind of progressed my way up now to as of the 1st of May as associate director. So I've seen the whole process through from transitioning from a senior accountant to an associate director. Lewis Smith itself has been around for nearly 40 years. Andrew Smith, who's one of the current partners, it was his dad who was one of the founding partners. We are very much a family run firm, and it's very much got a family feel to the business. And I think the expectations of the current owners is that will continue well into the future. In terms of size, we've got over 20 staff now. We are located just outside the centre of Dudley, in a one office building, and we've got well over 500 clients that we deal with, and the type of clients that we deal with range from small sole traders all the way up to multi-million-pound companies.
So going back to your journey, what got you into accounting? What were you like as a kid, and how did you always want to be an accountant?
I suppose it starts when I was two. When I was 2 years old, my dad set up a business, a financial service business in London, just outside of Wolverhampton, and he became an independent financial advisor, and he built that up from the ground up. So when I was a child, I spent many hours in the office with him, listening to the conversations that he was having, in interacting with the staff within his office. I knew every member of staff's name; they knew my name. So I was kind of brought up in a business similar to which I work in now. So I think that installed a desire to work in this industry, and it also taught me quite a lot before I even left school of how businesses work, the ups and downs. I felt them over the entirety of my childhood. So, and it gave me the desire to want to run my own business.
So was it the desire to be an accountant, or was it to run the business?
Run a business.
It was the running the business. So
my dad isn't an accountant; he's a financial advisor. So I didn't get that from him. The choice to be an accountant was a choice that I made at the age of 16, where I had a choice of either following my dad into the family business or doing something on my own and making my own way in life. And right. I decided at that point that I wanted to do my own thing, and I chose accountancy because at the time it was to me more technical, and I was more interested into the technical side of things.
So what happened then? So you've got a desire to running a business. You've moved into accounting. What was your first job, and how did that come about?
So before I got to my first job, I went to university and I came out with lots of knowledge. Uh, was it the best career choice? Could I have started work early? Yes, but I decided that I wanted to get to university. I attended Aberystwyth University in Wales. I came out with a degree in accounting and finance, and the first 6 months post qualifying and getting my degree were difficult because I found it hard to find an entry level position in an accounting firm. And I remember at the time I sat down with my dad, who has always been my mentor. He said, the best thing you can do is write to accountancy firms, even if they aren't advertising for positions, and write to as many as you can, and hopefully one day they will write back to you and you will have an opportunity. And that's exactly what I did. I wrote to all the accountancy firms that I could find in my local area, and then 6 months later I got called in for an interview and I got the
How
job.
many did you write?
It was double digits. It was probably, I mean, we're going back 15 years now, but it was probably 20 odd letters that I actually took them round to all the accounting firms and posted them myself to save on the postage. And I sat there and waited. And lo and behold, 6 months later, one of those accounting firms that I wrote to responded, and I went ahead for the interview and got the job. So it was a relief to finally get into the industry, because it is a very difficult industry to get in at the bottom because there's a lot of competition. But as soon as you're in the industry, as soon as you're in a position, it opens up so many opportunities.
So your role at that point was what?
So I actually started off in audit as an audit junior. So the majority of the work I was doing at the time was to go out with a audit senior and basically learn how to audit a statutory set of accounts. So it would be going out to clients. It would be looking at the fixed asset register. It would be looking at the trade debtor balances and performing audit tests on those to satisfy audit testing requirements. So it was the start of me realising that I needed to focus on relationships, because I was obviously going out and dealing with lots of people that I'd never met before and asking for information that at the time I didn't fully understand what I was asking for. And it started the process of me understanding how to understand and deal with people within my industry and with clients.
So you got used to kind of the terminology, you got used to
Yeah.
the kind of conversations people are having. How did you feel at that point? Were you confident? Were you what was the impact on you?
I turned up on day one and realised that I'd got a lot of technical knowledge, but I had no understanding of the practical implications of that knowledge and how to deal with situations within or with clients, and how to manage myself when I was out on
Right.
site on audit. And I spent the first 6 months thinking to myself, I don't know anything. Like, I felt like I didn't know anything. I felt like everything that I learned at university hadn't prepared me enough for what I was doing, but actually, in reality, it had. I was just learning how to apply that in practice.
Was there anything that particularly surprised you that you those experiences when you're on site, you're at the client site, and you're gathering that data. Was there anything that stood out that you think that or that I really remember?
I think for me, it's the relationships that I built with the financial directors, the managing directors of the companies that I was working with, because I'd always chosen, or I always thought that the role to being a good accountant was to be technically very good, and that would get you through. And what I realised quickly was it's not about that. It's about the relationships that you build with your clients, and the way you speak to them is the way is the way you speak to clients and the relationships you build with them are the most important thing. And I actually realised I was actually quite good at that. I didn't realise until I actually started going out and talking to people that I was actually very good at explaining things in a way that meant that people that weren't as technically minded could understand. And I
Had you
really
always
enjoyed
been
that.
good at that? Is that something that
I,
you honed, or?
it's something I was naturally good at, which I didn't realise until I actually stepped into that world and started doing it. I'd always seen myself as somebody that was very technically minded and was capable of understanding all the technical side of stuff. I didn't realise I was actually good at delivery of that knowledge in a simplified format to clients until I actually went out and did that. And that was the most surprising thing. And also, it was the fact that that became the most enjoyable part of what I was doing, was going out and speaking to clients and talking about their accounts and the figures behind those accounts. That to me was a breath of fresh air, really.
Wow. So you were good at this. You succeeded within that. Um, what happened next? Because this was before Lewis Smith, right?
Yeah. So I did 3.5 years at that company, and by the end of those 3.5 years, I'd become a competent auditor, but I hadn't done a lot of what we call accounts preparation. I hadn't learned the mechanics of how the accounts were put together in practice. I'd learned how to check certain elements of those accounts, but I hadn't learned how to prepare them. So I decided that I needed to move to a new practice where my job role would be different. It would be more focused on the accounts preparation side and dealing with different types of clients, not just large audit clients. So I moved from that company to another company, and my role changed there because I focused more on, rather than just focusing on large audit limited companies, I was dealing with every aspect from the small sole trader all the way up to the multi-million pound company.
And okay, so you stepped into that role. How was that? What was that? How did that feel like?
It felt it was more interesting than I felt than audit, because I was getting involved with the preparation. I enjoy the preparation of preparing statutory accounts more than I do the auditing of it, because the auditing I always find you're just checking somebody else's work, whereas when you're doing the accounts preparation, you're actually preparing those accounts. Um, it it also opened me up to again, as I said before, more relationships with different types of clients. Where before I was dealing with just the financial directors and the managing directors of larger businesses, I was now dealing with the directors of all sizes of businesses. So it gave me different perspectives and different relationships with different types of people. And the volume of people that I was speaking to increased, which again, I really enjoyed, because I like speaking to different people and understanding how they've got to their position in their businesses, and how they work. So that was the nice aspect of that job, was the expansion of that side of dealing with more clients and dealing with different types of people.
And did you expect that? that change? Was that what you expected? That kind of the difference in the role? Was that what you wanted?
That's what I wanted. Yeah, that when I left and went there to the second firm, my expectations was I would be dealing with a more variety of clients, more in both size and the type of clients, and I would be doing more work on the accounts preparation side and getting more involved with that. So yeah, it was exactly what I was set out to achieve when I decided to move firms.
Was it intimidating? Did you take to it like a duck to water, or?
I'm not going to say it wasn't intimidating because it was, because the kind of people that you're dealing with are seasoned professionals who've been around in the industry for years. Certainly the financial directors and financial controllers of this world, and they've obviously got far more experience and knowledge and understanding than I had at the time, and even so in aspects now. But I never. Once you start to speak to them and you start to build those relationships, it's like any relationship that you have with anybody that you meet. Nobody talks down to anybody. You meet each other on the same level and you talk through the business, the way it's operating on a financial level. And I think I found it less intimidating as the years rolled by, but I never felt too intimidated and too out my depth. I felt naturally I just slid into that role. Surprisingly, really, because it's not something that I thought that I would be good at. So yeah.
Yeah. So what are your tips on that building of relationship that you've kind of mastered? I don't know if you're able to articulate that.
That's a difficult one. In terms of the way I deal with relationship building is to talk to the clients, not just on a business level, but also on a personal level, to understand how they operate, because each client is different and each client has their own needs and how they want you to help them. So I suppose the best tip for me is to really understand your client, really get to know your client on how they operate and how they respond to help, and try and tailor your approach to what they need.
So it's learning how they think.
Yeah, because you'll get businesses where you'll have a director who lacks financial understanding, and they want you to explain it in the most simple terms as possible. So you have to take whatever you need to discuss with that client, and you have to present it to them in a way that they can understand. You might then also get a financial controller who's been a financial controller for 30 years. He's a qualified accountant. You will speak to them in a different way. You know, you can throw more technical knowledge in, and you can speak to them in a way that they that they will understand what you're talking about. Because if you talk to them in the simplistic way, then they'll probably just look at you and go, they might well find it insulting, because that they are on a par with you in terms of the qualifications that they've done. So it's that difference between understanding who you're dealing with and how to approach a conversation with that person.
So let's get on to the promotion. You're with Lewis Smith. You were there for how long before?
7 years. Yeah.
7 years.
Yeah.
So you were working as an accountant. You're doing that accounting. You're learning those bigger clients, but then you get asked to step up.
Yes.
So what was said? What was going through your mind when that happened?
When I started Lewis Smith, I'd always set out that my ambition was to one day be a director. So I'd set out my stall from the start that I wanted to be more than just a senior accountant. So it wasn't a surprise that we'd moved to that position where I became an associate director. In terms of the way that they approached me to step up, we've had a couple of conversations in the last 12 months about what I wanted from Lewis Smith and what I saw my role would be when I did step up. And then earlier this year, I gave a presentation to the current partners and directors about my vision for the future. And we sat down and we talked about it, and we concluded that my vision was in line with their vision and it would be a good fit. And we agreed that the process for me stepping up would happen a few months after, which it did. And now...
So you made it very clear what you wanted. You
Yeah.
weren't. You didn't just sort of wait until they noticed you. You were quite forthright about that.
Yeah.
So what happened at the point where you were promoted? You have a new role. Is that role what you expected it to be? And what have you learned about accounting and about yourself by making that step?
I think the biggest change is we have a weekly directors meeting where we talk about, there's a topic each week, whether it's we talk about the practices finances, where we talk about the staffing requirements, whether we're talking about the business development and how we attract new clients. And I think the biggest and most interesting thing for me is the three topics that I've never really had to talk about, or had the opportunity to talk about, or have really talked about before. And I'm looking at it now more from a strategic point of view and looking down on the business rather than where I've spent my last 7 years, which is working within the business and managing the flow of work through the business. I knew that would be part of the role of stepping up, but I hadn't realised how much I'd enjoyed the process of sitting and having those directors' meetings and having influence in terms of guiding decision making into shaping the future of the practice. That's the bit that I've taken to and really enjoyed.
So is it kind of more fulfilling now at the end of the week, at the end of the month? Do you kind of have a better feeling now than previously? How's that?
Absolutely, because I feel like I've had a lot of these thoughts and ideas of how we can improve the practice, but I've never really shared them or felt like I had the platform to share them because I wasn't a director. Now I have. I'm finding that sitting down with the fellow directors and I'm presenting ideas and thoughts that are my own.
And how have you felt in terms of your confidence in this role? Have you ever felt like I'm out of my depth here? I'm an imposter. How's that been?
I don't think it's been as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, I've been here long enough now, and the last couple of years, the role that I've been doing has been more lean towards setting me up to become a director anyway. So I don't feel unconfident. I don't feel like an imposter. I feel like it's something I've been working towards, and now I'm here. I'm taking that opportunity, and I'm enjoying that opportunity. I felt more of a step up leaving a previous practice to go to another practice where you went from one world into a completely new world. Whereas here, I know the people, I know the clients, I know the challenges, and all I'm doing is having more opportunity to have influence over making this a better place to work.
Fantastic. Well, it's wonderful to hear your story and you're tracking your progress through this world. I hope next time we meet, you'll be in that role of partner. You'll have your own firm, and you'll be able to report on how that's been for us as well.
Yeah, hopefully the progression will continue, and I think, in the next few years, I've got some learning to do as a partner. I was associate director before I become a partner, but I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully it will be an interesting few years.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us, Luke. Really appreciate it, and I wish you the very, very best of luck.
Thank you, Andy. Cheers.
You've been listening to Off Ledger, the podcast where accountants share their personal stories of success and failure as they evolve to become leaders in the profession.